A tourist arrested for walking without a mask, but she was eating something. Colchester says the cops overreacted, but they weren't wrong to arrest her. And police recover 57 of the 100 stolen tablets. We'll show you the mother of two charged for handling two of them. Also, is the COVID curve flattening? The Minister of Health talks about the trend in numbers and the plans for the curfew. Plus, the Belizean going to the Super Bowl. We'll tell you about Rakeem Nunes Roches from Dangriga. And on the campaign trail with the UDP City Council hopefuls, can fresh faces overcome the ill political will for the UDP in the city? We've got details of these and other stories in our newscast for tonight, Monday, January 25th, 2021. Good evening. With your news, I'm Endure Craig.
For hydration, when the choice is yours, choose the brand you have always trusted. Crystal Water. Taste you can trust.
Dear Belize, the coronavirus has swept across the world, including our beloved country. It has impacted our health and devastated our economy. But all is not lost. Collectively, we all can make a difference. We can take precautions and protect ourselves and each other. Limit your social interactions and stay safe with the people you love. We are living in a new normal, but we can still enjoy all the wonderful things that Belize has to offer. Everything is still there. That little spot on the beach you love, your favorite restaurant, the friendly faces. Let's commit to wearing our masks, sanitizing, physical distancing, and washing hands regularly. So stay safe today so we can enjoy tomorrow together. Sincerely, an optimistic Belizean.
You've worked hard your whole life building your future, your family, your business, your home. And when you aren't around to safeguard your most beloved assets, you are at ease because you know they are protected by RF&G Insurance. For over 50 years, RF&G has been making sure business owners get back to work after an accident, and families get back into their homes quickly after a natural disaster. At RF&G, it's you who matters most. Visit us today and learn why it pays to get it right. RF&G Insurance, a Road Group company.
Electricity. We use it to power our appliances, charge our devices, and light our home. Let's all practice energy conservation at home and in the workplace. That's unplug chargers when not in use, lights off when not in the room, turn off fans and TVs. You can also look for Energy Star products and change lights to LEDs, which reduce energy cost. Let's all save energy.
If you have been directly exposed to the new coronavirus or have a history of travel in infected populated areas, it is recommended that you self-isolate. Identify a room to be used to self-isolate and limit contact with healthy persons. Keep away from older persons and persons who have medical conditions that affects their immune system. Monitor for any cold or flu-like symptom for up to 21 days and wash hands frequently with soap and water. If you become seriously ill, call your healthcare provider or 0800-664-2273 for guidance. A health and wellness message from your Ministry of Health.
In partnership with the British High Commission.
delicate, the beer of Belize.
You have a neighbor throwing a party? Do you know of anyone holding a social event? Have you seen people not following protocols set in place to reduce the spread of COVID-19? If so, report them immediately. Use SMART or BTL and call 0800-PARTIES. That's 0800-727-8432. Our COVID-19 hotlines are available 24/7. These violators are putting your health and everyone you love at risk. Call our COVID-19 hotlines and report all violators. This message was brought to you by the Belize Police Department.
It's a video that whipped around the internet faster than a speeding bullet. On Saturday night, footage of an American tourist being cuffed and taken away by Belizean police for the crime of failing to wear a mask went viral, then some. It's the kind of video that could threaten the TripAdvisor rating of the entire country. A final rupture in what's already a tourism Armageddon. And this morning, Cherise Halsall spoke to Commissioner Chester Williams about the mini PR fiasco and how it was handled.
It's the video that stoked outrage on Saturday night. A tourist strolling on the beaches of Key Cocker and munching on some takeout is told that she's about to be put under arrest.
Do you see that I have food in my hand? I am eating. You see it, right? This is Ishli Racinos.
My name is Reynaldo Paul, and regulation number 1.
And I'm eating my food while I'm walking.
Sir, can you step a little more back if you want the video?
No. 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 And it's, if you're eating, you're allowed to. No. No. If you're eating, if I'm eating, I don't have to. No. 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 No.
But she wasn't locked down for long, because ED Region 4 Commander Chris Noble quickly brought her plight to the attention of the commissioner, and he directed her release.
I did saw the video footage on social media, and I spoke to Mr. Noble, as well as the two officers in question. And from my understanding is that the officers had passed moments before and they saw the tourists without a mask. And they had warned the tourists about not wearing a mask. And subsequent to that, the officers returned and the tourist was still seen without wearing her mask. And based on that, again, the officers went and warned her to wear her mask, and she went off on the officers. Now, let me make it clear that the quarantine regulation that is currently in force do not make any provision for persons who are eating or drinking in public not to be wearing a mask. However, as a matter of our internal practice, we have advised our officers that if a person is eating or drinking in public or any public space, then we must exercise our discretion. And so it was in that light that I had said that the officers may have overreacted and could have used the discretion. But equally, it must be understood that the tourists must abide by the law. And the officers, even in the video footage that you would see, the officers did try to exercise some level of patience in how they dealt with her.
Is this the way you guys treat American travelers? Is this the way that you treat American travelers? I'm eating my food. I'm eating my food while I walk.
And she was very crafty in what she did, because she actually took the piece of meat and said, I'm eating. And so that captured the attention of the Belizean people. And so the Belizean people reacted the way they did towards the officers. And we understand that.
Indeed, the commissioner is well aware of the PR implications here and says that snuffing out tourism is far from his department's goal. He also pointed out the obvious, that you can't eat while wearing a mask, but cautioned the public not to abuse that caveat.
At the end of the day, we don't want to promote an environment that will not be conducive to our tourists, especially in a time like this. And so we must, to some extent, ensure that we exercise some discretion when we encounter persons, whether they're tourists or not, and they are seen eating or drinking in public, because as a matter of judicial notice, one would have to lower their mask in order to eat or drink. And yes, while some can say, well, you can go and eat in a restaurant or whatever, not everybody can eat in a restaurant, especially now where most of the restaurants are providing for takeout. And while, yes, we do say that if you're drinking, you can take down your mask, that only applies to drinking water or medicine. It does not apply to drinking liquor or of that sort. And while we also speak of eating, it does not speak to eating a sweet, like one would suggest a lollipop, or eating a chips or whatever. Yeah, it must be that you're eating some sort of food.
And when it comes to accommodating Belize's guests, the commissioner admits that officers could do with some training.
Discussed with several persons who have agreed to offer the police officers in Kikaka some customer care in tourism industry. And we are going to take up those offers and try to see how we can educate our officers. But at the end of the day, I don't want it to be seen as if the police officers were utterly wrong, because they were not.
Cherise Halsell, 7 News.
Williams also told us that with tourism being a major contributor to Belize's GDP, the cops must be sensitive to the situation and strive to create an environment that, despite the pandemic, remains hospitable to tourism. On Friday, we told you about a devastating burglary at Sadie Vernon High School. 96 government-donated tablets gone in a flash. It's an unconscionable crime, especially at a time like this, when students, already exiled from the classrooms, are in desperate need of learning devices. And over the weekend, the cops arrested one woman whom they say they caught red-handed, and they also recovered more than half of the stolen tablets. This morning, head of CIB, Superintendent Alejandro Kowa, told us how they'd been strategically stashed.
So far, 56 tablets have been recovered, and a female by the name of Lena Gabriel was arrested and charged for handling stolen goods.
Sir, now that you know the identity of this person, does this appear to be an inside job?
Well, it is. We know that they have a security that is working there during the entire night. He was questioned, and we suspect that it could have been some inside job as to where exactly these laptops were, and because we made to understand that they were recently taken to the school there.
Sir, how were these tablets packed? Because they got away with 96 of them.
Well, all of them they were still originally in the box they came from, and one box. And the police camera is showing us that a group of male persons exited, and they were walking in that area with bags on their hands. We suspect that the tablets were inside of the bags that they were holding when they came out of that place. 3 were recovered with a female. 16 were recovered at an abandoned house, and 35 more were found within the school. I am appealing to the public that if anybody goes out there trying to sell you one of these tablets, that do not purchase it and instead call the police.
And during her arraignment this morning, Alina Gabriel, who was unrepresented, pled not guilty to the charge of handling stolen goods. She would have been granted bail with no objections, but she was also found to be $3,000 in debt to the court for a state of emergency violation to which she pleaded guilty in 2020. Still, Senior Magistrate Pitts Anderson granted Gabriel, who is a single mother of 2, time to pay her fine. She's due back in court on March 15 of 2021. The police also briefed the media on the arrest of one of their own. Back in 2018, it made major headlines after 8 lawmen, all members of the Belize Special Assignment Group, were arrested and charged for the murder of Ariel Ordinette Salazar. They were remanded but eventually set free after the case was thrown out. Well, after 2 years, the case is back on and the officers will be rearrested, but not for murder. Police Constable Leonard Kajun was the first to have been formally arrested and charged with manslaughter over the weekend. ACP Joseph Myvitt explained why the case was thrown out in the first place and how it is now that the charge is manslaughter.
As you were aware, himself, along with other members of the Belize Special Assignment Group, BSAG, were previously arrested. And then for some reason, the case was struck out. However, further investigation was done, and the DPP ordered that they be rearrested and that charges be instituted against them. So far, it is only Cahun that has been found, along with another person that was brought into custody this morning, who is also going to be charged today.
What was the element in the investigation that cinched this charge of manslaughter?
At some point, the file was not completely ready because of some further directives that was given, and the magistrate struck out the matter. So those directives have now been complied with, and the order was given that those persons be rearrested.
The lawmen were also charged with attempted murder of Oscar Paez. They stormed into the house where the two victims were and viciously beat them, reportedly over a cell phone. 7 of the men were BDF soldiers and 1, Constable Kajun, was a police officer. Last week, we told you about some of the complaints against the countrywide curfew, which the Briceño administration implemented on December 18th. That's when the COVID-19 second wave was cresting countrywide, and the numbers of deaths was soaring. Since then, the numbers have been trending down, but the government has not given any indication about a possible end date for this curfew. The UDP has argued strongly that the indefinite curfew is unconstitutional and that it is an undue economic hardship upon business owners and workers in the service sector. Government officials have heard those complaints, and amendments are being considered for the end of the month. This evening, the press tried to get the Minister of Health and Wellness to discuss what those changes could possibly look like, but he wasn't prepared to get into details just yet.
Can you talk to us about what are some of the changes that we can expect?
Well, I'm not gonna really speak about that right now, but I can tell you that we have been listening. We have been listening to the public. We know what the needs out there, but at the same time, from the Ministry of Health and Wellness point of view, we have an obligation to safeguard our citizens. And so we are looking at some changes for the 1st of February, but I cannot yet say what they are.
But is it in any way loosening restrictions?
Well, if I were to say that, then I would tell you what they are.
No, sir. It's just because, you know, there's...
Turning now to the weekend numbers for COVID-19, there were no deaths reported on both Saturday and Sunday. There was a total of 710 tests and only 50 were positive, a positivity rate of just 7%. Now, that's much lower than in November and December, when it was routinely over 20 and 30%. And so we asked the health minister if the infection curve is starting to flatten.
Is there any intention from the ministry to publish the ages of the COVID casualties, the victims who passed away? Because we know that age is a correlation to those who are most susceptible to it.
All right, so as you can see, we have expanded the information we give on our daily infomercials. And we do see that from the different sectors of the public, there are requests for additional information. Now, part of the difficulty we have at the ministry is what do we give out and what do we keep? And so the team at the ministry is looking at it to see what additions or subtractions they're going to be making to the infomercial. The numbers have been decreasing. They have been decreasing. And yes, it is true that in Cayo and in Belize district, we have seen an upsurge in number. But for example, in the northern districts where we actually implemented an inter-district traveling ban, you have seen the numbers gone down dramatically.
The weekend numbers, you had 0 deaths reported, and then the daily infectivity rate seems to be trending down around 10% or below.
Yes.
Countrywide, is the infection curve starting to flatten?
Well, we are cautiously optimistic. I don't want to say yes as yet. You know that the standard is 5% for at least a period of 2 weeks consecutively for you to be able to say it is flattening. And so while we're happy with the direction we see we're going in, we still have to remain very cautious and guarded.
We also asked the minister about the latest information they have on COVID vaccines that Belize will receive, and here's what he had to say.
Is there any updated time frame for the arrival of the COVID vaccines for Belize, and what type of vaccine will we be receiving?
Right. So as you know, we signed on to the COVAX facility, and we are still in discussion with PAHO to determine exactly which vaccine will be coming into the country. They have said to us in the first quarter of this year where to receive it, but we're still waiting to see exactly which date it will be arriving and which one.
What is the, if you're able to say, sir, the volume at this time or the first amount that we will receive?
Okay, so we have paid for 30% so far, but we are not sure yet if we're going to be receiving the 30% in one shipment or over time. This is still being worked out through PAHO.
The press also asked the health minister for a comment on the stricter COVID-19 measures which the U.S. government has implemented since President Joe Biden took office. As we've reported, travelers to the USA now have to arrive with a negative COVID test, and it is recommended that they quarantine for 7 days upon arrival in the States. It's a different marker for Belize and other countries which depend on U.S. tourism, because stricter measures could be a deal breaker for travelers contemplating a vacation to sunny Belize. Shebat told the press that the government is monitoring the situation.
Well, I think those are important, and I think what you're seeing in the United States is kind of opposite to where we were. They are now going to go where we have been for the last few months, and I think the measures they're implementing is really to safeguard the American population. From a country point of view, it affects us because of the potential amount of tourists who can come to Belize. And so what we've done at the Ministry of Health and Wellness is that we have now expanded the testing services to accommodate travelers, so that anyone who wants to come to Belize will be readily able to get a test to return.
Looking at the whole issue with this new strain of the virus from the UK, we know that Mexico has recorded some of that strain there. You know, in Belize, I'm not sure if we're testing for that strain as yet or what have you. Can you comment on that?
Yes, that strain is of concern to us, and we are looking at it very closely because we're concerned about a third wave in Belize. And yes, we have sent out swabs to be tested. We have partnered with Baylor College in Texas, who are assisting to identify whether or not that strain has actually reached Belize or not. So we are keeping a very close eye on it, and it is of concern to us.
And we take a break now. When we come back, Raheem Yunus Roches will tell you about this Belizean athlete's historic trip to the Super Bowl as a defensive player. And later on the campaign trail with the UDP City Council team as fresh faces try to restore the UDP's brand in its former stronghold. Don't go away.
At Benquip, we offer a complete line of Honda products featuring the most trusted and reliable line of motorcycles in Belize. For outdoor and marine recreation, we have Polaris ATVs and UTVs, Volvo Pentamarine Solutions, Honda Outboards, and Best Sport Kayaks. When it's time to service your vehicle or equipment, you can find the brands you trust at Benquip. We carry a large inventory of Castrol oils, NGK spark plugs, and a full range of cleaning products from Magic. Get power when you need it with trade winds and Honda generators. For those businesses looking for increased productivity and a safe working environment, our proven and respective line of TCM forklifts will not let you down. We also have trimmers and lawnmowers from Honda and Husqvarna, so you can keep your yard and surroundings properly maintained. So visit Benquip today at 3 miles on the Philip Golson Highway to get the equipment, parts, and service you need.
Pelican, the beer of Belize.
On March 11th, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. A pandemic means the virus is everywhere, but it might not be everywhere at the same time. If there are no cases in your area, it does not mean that there will never be cases in your area. Here's what you can do to delay the spread of COVID-19 in your community. Stay home unless it's absolutely necessary for you to go out. Practice physical distancing when you leave home. Wash your hands frequently using soap and water for at least 40 seconds or use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid contact with anyone who has fever, cough and cold, or flu-like symptoms. Obey quarantine, isolation, and curfew rules. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces such as doorknobs, counters, phones, and tablets. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth without first washing your hands. Help keep Belize safe.
Caused the intense flooding overnight in the western and southern parts of the country.
Yeah? Do we need to renew the insurance policy?
The
insurance policy? Oh, let me check.
Renew your policies, file a claim, and even send us a message using RFNG online.
No, we're good. It says we're covered. Okay, great.
It pays to get it right with RFNG Insurance, a road group company.
Contraband is the illegal importation of goods such as alcohol, tobacco, foods, and parts. Apart from breaking the law, smugglers are also now endangering the health of all Belizeans. They risk bringing coronavirus into Belize with their contraband. To keep COVID-19 out of Belize, everyone entering the country is screened and quarantined. But contraband smugglers are not using legal entry points and are bypassing all safety measures. And these same smugglers are moving among the population. They could be carrying the virus. By coming into the country illegally, they could cause outbreaks of COVID-19. Buying or smuggling contraband is putting yourself, your family, and the entire country at risk. Report smuggling. For SMART, call 0800-JUMPERS or 0800-BORDERS. For Digi, 0800-SAVE-BZE. This message is brought to you by the Belize Police Department and the Belize Bank.
El contrabando es importar ilegalmente productos como el alcohol, tabaco, comida y objetos. Aparte de romper la ley, los contrabandistas están poniendo ahora en riesgo la salud de los beliceños. Ellos arriesgan traer coronavirus a Belice por medio de sus contrabandos. Para mantener el COVID-19 fuera de Belice, todos los que entren al país son examinados y encuarentenados. Sin embargo, los contrabandistas no utilizan los puntos de entrada legal y se saltan todas las medidas de seguridad. Estos mismos traficantes se están moviendo entre la población. Ellos podrían tener el virus. Al entrar ilícitamente al país, esto puede provocar un brote de COVID-19. Comprar o traficar contrabando te pone a ti, a tu familia y a todo tu país en riesgo. Para números de SMART, llama al 0800-586-7377, 0800-267-3377 y para Digi 0800-728-3293 para reportar cualquier actividad de contrabando. Este mensaje es presentado por el Departamento de Policía de Belice y el Banco de Belice.
You have a neighbor throwing a party? Do you know of anyone holding a social event? Have you seen people not following protocols set in place to reduce the spread of COVID-19? If so, report them immediately. Use SMART or BTL and call 0800-PARTIES. That's 0800-727-8432. Our COVID-19 hotlines are available 24/7. These violators are putting your health and everyone you love at risk. Call our COVID-19 hotlines and report all violators. This message was brought to you by the Belize Police Department.
A Belizean is going to play on the biggest sporting stage in the world. Antigua-born Rakeem Yunus Roches, a defensive tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is a big part of the Bucs' success with their playoff-leading defense. Last night, the Bucs, led by legendary quarterback Tom Brady, won the NFC Championship over the Green Bay Packers, 31-26. That earned the team a spot in Super Bowl 55, which by mere coincidence will be played on their home field at the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. It's the first time in history a team will play the Super Bowl on their home turf, and that should give Rakeem's team a big edge as they face the defending champ, the Kansas City Chiefs, 13 days from now. It's going to be an interesting game for the 27-year-old Rakeem, since Kansas City is the team that drafted him 5 years ago. At the time, here is what he said about his relationship to Belize.
Rakeem Nunez Roches, you were actually the first player born in Belize to be drafted into the NFL. So first question, how does it feel in a way to represent an entire country?
I mean, it's an honor. You know, I give my country hope. So I take that. It's a big thing to wear in your sleeves.
You're bilingual, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
So what is the other language that you speak?
We speak Garifuna, Creole.
Okay, can you give me a sentence example?
For how y'all say hi, how you doing? We say Ida Biangi.
Ida Biangi?
Yes, sir.
Nacho, hell of a set, man. Hey, I want to my Tyreek. What?
Online reports Rakeem left Belize for the United States with his mother when he was just 8 years old. The 6'2", 307-pounder okayed college football at Southern Mississippi University and was drafted 217th in 2015. He was cut by the Kansas City Chiefs in 2018 and then picked up by the Bucs, with whom he has earned a starting spot on their defensive line. We'll keep following his historic journey to the Super Bowl. On September 21st of 2019, Elmer Chubb perished inside an apartment in Kekauka. Reports say a tenant in the building had left a candle burning, and that caused a fire which led to Chubb's death. Today, police charged the man who allegedly lit that candle. 23-year-old Irvin Torres, a farmer of Shunush village in Corozal, was charged with causing death by careless conduct in the death of Elmer Chubb. He appeared before Magistrate Kadeem Palmer in courtroom number 6 today, where he was read the single indictable offense of causing death by careless conduct. No plea was taken and he was granted bail of $8,000. His next court date is set for May 13, 2021 in Kekauka. Earlier in the news, we told you about what the commissioner called a police overreaction. That incident involved an American tourist who was perhaps wrongly arrested but treated with absolute decorum. But that wasn't the case in another of the weekend's arrests caught on camera. This time, a man who was reportedly under the influence was put in a chokehold by his arresting officer. The chokehold and its usage by authorities has been widely despised, that is, since the May 2020 death of American George Floyd. Today, the commissioner told us that since then, it's been off the table as a method of detention in Belize. But this morning, he also wondered out loud if prior to that video, this man hadn't done something that warranted that treatment.
Yes, I did saw a video last night, again on social media, with an officer who was holding a person in a chokehold. Again, I listened to the voices in the video, and I heard where people were saying that those who were recording chose to record at a certain point, but they did not record what took place before. And it goes to what the minister have said to us, that people tend to record what they want to record, or when they do record an entire incident, they splice it and only release that which they want the public to see. And so from the voices in that video, it is obvious that the young man may have done something wrong that causes the police to have reacted the way they did. Now, I'm not going to justify the actions of the officer in terms of putting the person in a chokehold, because we do have a policy following the George Floyd incident in the U.S. We created our own internal policy to the effect that police officers in Belize are no longer to use the chokehold as a method to be able to restrain a person. And so the officer in question conduct would go against our internal policy. And for that, I have directed PSB to look at it. But at the end of the day, too, we have to be reasonable. And I don't think that it is something that warrants that the police officer be killed, but rather to give him some sort of reprimand and make him understand that those kind of behaviors are not going to be countenanced.
The commissioner also cautioned the public not to be too judgmental, telling us that what the video didn't show was the arrested disorderly behavior and the manner in which he resisted the effort of the officers to put him into their mobile. And while that cop is in for a reprimand, many others coming up behind him are just hoping to be admitted as members of the force. And 1,000 of them may just get that chance. That's the number that managed to pass their entrance exam. We saw a large group of them at the academy today as they sat patiently waiting for the interview portion of their application. This morning we asked the commissioner about the rest of the process and just how he plans to whittle 1,000 hopefuls down to 225 new recruits. We have finally corrected all the exam papers, that is 2,700 plus. And we have a number of passes. I think it is little over 1,000 of those persons who are successful in the exam. And so what we commence today is bringing those persons who were successful in the exam to the academy to undergo an interview. And so today we're dealing with Orange Walk and Corozal because we don't want to have too much people on the compound. Again, we still have to ensure that we adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. And so, again, the interviews are the second stage of elimination. You know the first stage is the exam, then you have now the second stage is the interviews, and then those persons who are successful in interviews will move on to the third stage of elimination, which is going to be the vetting. And then from the vetting we eliminate further, and then we go to the medical, and from the medical we eliminate, and then we come up with our final list. So we're hoping that by the third week of February we should be ready with our final list. But again, that is going to be dependent on the assistance that we can get from the central lab in Belize City, Central Medical Lab in Belize City, that would normally do the medical for us. We know that it's the same lab that does the COVID-19 test, so I am sure that the COVID-19 is going to be priority over us, but we are going to see if they can work with us the best they can to ensure that our list can be out within a reasonable time. Williams also told us that he plans to have a standby list to replace those recruits that can't hack it or choose to leave the academy during the 3-month training period. And the new intake is much needed since officers need all the help they can get, especially while tracking down an alleged murderer. Javier Chuck is still on the run after reportedly stabbing his special needs stepson and then absconding. Police believe he's still in the country and are hot on his trail. ACP Joseph Myvet told us more.
It's still an ongoing investigation, and yes, indeed, he still remains on the run, and we are searching for him in relation to the investigation.
Do you have any active leads?
We have followed several active leads over the past few days. However, we have still not yet been able to catch up with him.
Is it believed that Chuck may have fled the country?
No, not at this time. We do not have any information supporting that theory.
Do you believe that he's still within the area though?
Not exactly in the area. There were several other parts that we received information that he was sighted in other districts, and those were the leads that have been followed so far.
The incident occurred on January 17th, and the victim, Walter Gonzalez, succumbed the next day. Police are also looking for suspects in the drive-by shooting of Angela Roches on Wagner's Lane on Saturday evening. Here's more from Superintendent Alejandro Coa.
On Saturday evening, just before 6, police were called to the corner of Berkeley Street and Albert Street where they received information that a female was injured due to gunshot. Check at the hospital revealed that Miss Angela Roches had sustained a graze to her body. She was treated and discharged. What we understand so far is that there were a group of male persons who were at the corner of Berkeley Street and Albert Street when somebody came and fired several shots at their direction at the same time that she was entering her yard, and she ended up getting injured. We know who are the persons, and they are definitely an affiliate of that group in that area. We have a suspect that we are looking for, and also we are speaking with the person that was injured to come forward and to officially come give us a report as we can continue with the investigation. She was treated and discharged on the same evening.
And from Belize City to Dangriga, a shooting was reported in the culture capital. 26-year-old Niall Vasquez survived an attempt on his life and is now in a stable condition. He was injured in his upper back, and ACP Joseph Myvitt explained how the incident unfolded.
What police learned is that Niall Vasquez was in the Lakeland area of Dangriga town shortly before 6 p.m. Where he was in discussion with someone who owed him some monies, and as a result an argument ensued between himself and that person whilst he was still sitting in his vehicle. As a result, he was shot by a second person who arrived on the scene. So in relation to this investigation, police is seeking two persons.
Vasquez was arrested 2 times in 2018, once for a non-fatal shooting and then later for the murder of Melvin Locke. Earlier in the news, we told you about a police officer that was arrested for manslaughter, but he was not the only one facing a judge. PC Edgar Teal was charged after he sexually assaulted a 19-year-old in the Succots police station last week Monday. And if his name sounds familiar, it's because he was the same officer who was detained and questioned after a cache of weapons was stolen from the station in late November of 2020. ACP Myvitt told us more.
On the 18th of January, a 19-year-old woman reported to police that she had visited the Succots police station in order to sign bail for her common-law husband who was detained for wounding. As a result, during the process, she alleges that whilst in the station awaiting to be bailed, awaiting to sign the bail, she was sexually assaulted by PC Teol on 3 different occasions. As a result, an investigation was carried out where PC Teol has since been arrested and charged for 3 counts of sexual assault.
Sir, PC Teol is the same police corporal who was in that department when guns went missing from it, correct?
Yes, he is stationed there. He was, actually he lives upstairs. He resides upstairs of the station. So he was detained as a part of that investigation.
So now with the second charge against him, is he being looked at internally?
Certainly he was being looked at internally from that first report, and he has since been interdicted from duty pending the outcome of the second investigation.
And while ACP Myvitt covered all his bases on the case of Officer Teal, the commissioner also weighed in and spoke on recent police misconduct ranging from assault to drug trafficking.
We have seen over the past few months a number of criminal behavior on the part of some officers. We have those who are arrested for large quantity of drugs. And it is a part of our effort to go after those officers who we know are involved in different illegal activities. The public is clamoring for a more professional police department. We have a minister who is working with us, doing his best to see how we can make the department more professional. And so as a department, we need to do differently. We need to ensure that we hold officers accountable for their wrongdoing. What PC Teol did in Succots was utterly wrong. He violated that young woman without her consent, and she made a report, and he must be dealt with. Some have the tendency of saying that as a commissioner, I like to cover the wrongdoing of police officers, but I want to make it emphatically clear. Once a police officer is wrong with me, they're wrong. I'm not going to condone no wrongdoing, because when we do so, we do not make our department better. We do not make our officers better. We only will become better and become a more reputable department when we hold people accountable for the wrong that they have done.
And while this officer will spend some time behind bars, the police are also investigating a former PUP municipal level political candidate after he reportedly knocked a man off his motorcycle on December 30th. The incident occurred in Belmopan while the victim, Oscar Chavarria, was at a pedestrian ramp. He was badly injured and later reportedly blamed by the driver that it was his fault for stopping so suddenly. But there are also reports that the car was not even insured at the time. While ACP Maivid did not confirm this, he did tell us that he is aware of the reports that the police are looking into it.
What we know so far is that this is an accident that had occurred on the 30th of December last year, which remains under investigation. And it is that the victim was traveling on the East Ring Road, I believe, and he had slowed down his motorbike at a pedestrian ramp, and that was when a vehicle collided into the rear of his motorcycle. Both drivers were served with notice of intended prosecution. Yes, I am aware of the allegation that the vehicle was not insured, and based on the queries given this morning, I requested those officers to address the said queries.
Last week, we told you about efforts to identify the corpse of a John Doe through a highly technical process called the rehydration of a tattoo. Tonight, we can report that at least one person has come forward to name him as a family member. But the cops have yet to confirm that identity. This morning, ACP Maivid explained the delay.
A woman from St. Matthew's Village had come in based on the tattoo, but certain other things has got to be done, including DNA samples taken from those persons before we will release an identity to be that definitively of the person who went missing. According to her, on the 1st of November was the last time she saw that person.
About 4.5 years ago, Albert Hoare Sr. made our evening news. He's a father of the sitting magistrate Albert Hoare Jr. And for 7 years and counting, he's been caught up in a seemingly bitter dispute with his sister and her children over their deceased father's land in Kamalote Village. Back in July of 2016, it was news because information became public that questionable documents materialized out of the lands department saying that his sister and her children were suddenly the only owners of the property. Albert Sr. was effectively being excluded from his father's land, and so he and his loved ones began to press for the title to be revoked. The situation was never rectified, and so the tension between the two sides has been consistently building. Several days ago, there was yet another confrontation between the two sides, and Albert Hoare's side of the family reached out to us to follow up on the situation. Our Daniel Ortiz has been reviewing the provided documents, and he has put together this story.
Oh, come on. No. Shoot, I want to shoot. Your f***ing mouth, yeah? Why don't shoot? Shoot, I want to shoot. You're going for the rest of your f***ing life I have to do. Shoot, man.
These men should be close family relatives. 79-year-old Albert Hoare Sr. is Alison Koye's uncle. But they are at odds because these two sides of the family are locked in a bitter dispute over a piece of land in Kamalote. Best information is that the land once belonged to the late George Hoare Sr. The now deceased George Sr. was a leaseholder, and he raised all his children, including Albert Hoare Sr. and Isabel Hoare, who is the mother of Alison Koye. George Hoare Sr.'s lease expired, and so Albert Hoare Sr. went to the lands department in January 2013 to apply for a lease to these 15 acres. He was told that he needed a number of documents to get it done. The process was supposed to take place over the course of several months, but somehow, in July 2013, Isabel Hoare, sister of Albert Sr., managed to get a lease to the entire parcel of land on her behalf, as well as her children, including Alison Koye. It was done without the knowledge of Isabel's other siblings, who found out after the fact. In April 2014, Gaspar Vega, the then Minister of Natural Resources, cancelled that lease. He said, quote, "Your application was improperly processed. You never submitted your father's death certificate, and the lease was issued to you against the recommendation of the officer who did an inspection and noted that your brother Albert Hoare and sister Rosita Hoare also have some interest on the land left by your father. This matter is to be referred to probate at the Supreme Court so that an administrator can be appointed and dispose of your father's estate in a manner that is fair to all concerned. Until we hear from a court-appointed administrator of your father's estate, we will consider the land to remain in the estate of George Hoare." End quote. Even though the Lands Department recognized that several of George Hoare Sr.'s children had a claim to his estate, in August 2015, some magical wand was secretly waved inside the Lands Department, and again, without the knowledge of the entire family, a full title was issued to George Sr.'s daughter, Isabel Hoare, and her children. The new paper owners to this land include Wilhelm Koye, Emogene Koye, Alison Koye, and Isabel's common-law husband, Secondino Koye, who died in October 2011. Again, the then Lands Commissioner Wilbert Vallejos investigated the matter, and on March 10, 2016, he made these recommendations. He said, quote, 1. That the registrar be granted authority to revoke the land title issued to Miss Isabel Hoare. 2. That after that land title has been revoked, that a survey of the parcel be conducted to excise the portion where Mr. Albert Hoare's residence is. And 3. That the remainder of the land after surveys be mutated and a land title issued to Miss Isabel Hoare and children, end quote. Vallejos also thought that it was important to find out from Albert Hoare Sr. if he would accept compensation from Isabel Hoare for his investment on the land. None of this was ever done, and so the disputed title still stands. We understand that the Koye set of the family has been using this questionable title as their authority in their attempts to drive Albert Hoare Sr. off the property. It has led to persistent confrontations like this one. Albert Sr. and his son Richard went to his farm to do some work, and that's when they encountered Alison Koye.
I hope I put up a video to the hard one. Come. You dey drive the man out of your own place. Find the gun, find your power gun, put the camera up on your power gun. Come, let's go. We go to it now. Someone catch me. No land. Mother. Shoot, man. You shoot the guy, gun, shoot. Shoot.
And from the perspective of the immediate family members of Albert Hoare Sr., the police always seem ready to treat him as the guilty party in these confrontations. Police were called in for this particular confrontation, and after a senior officer reviewed this very same video clip, he was released without charges. The following day, another group of officers came to detain him a second time, and although his son Richard tried to explain that there was video proof that he did nothing wrong, the officers weren't interested. So, Richard recorded the second detention. You can see the officer holding Albert Sr.'s rifle.
Exactly what happened, right, sir?
Oh, big man, I got it right now, video for sure.
Okay.
Everything will happen.
Okay, sir.
Are you
So,
going?
yes, everybody have to go. Let's go.
All right.
Put on your mask.
You want I go too?
What you going for?
Well, I had a witness. I got it video. I got everything will take
Let's
place
go.
back there. This
Let's
is
go.
my pass. Oh, yeah, tell me what I'm going for.
Let's go.
I have to go. This is my pack.
Well, this is well, here what?
Hold on, pal. I'm going to. I can't get ready. No boy, nothing, officer, please. I got my car right there. I have to ride it now. I have to ride it now. I don't want to drive to
That's why we went here about it.
I sent one thing to my bigger brother already. Yes, make me deal with the case.
What you want?
I want to do what I got to do, boss. You can say what you want to.
Send a video by
I not going to sell nothing to nobody.
No,
You can't get nothing.
Send it by yourself, so
You don't want smart mouth. Smart mouth now do nothing for you. About so you car right now.
whoever you know or whatever influence you my voice can do nothing.
I don't care what you say, no, officer. We got rights, and you got rights. Everybody got rights. Yeah, wave to it, man. We're not disrespectful. Wave to it. Talk to you. Go through party, don't worry.
Reporting for 7 News, Daniel Ortiz.
Of important note is that the Koi side of the family has also complained against Albert Hoare Sr. They made a counterclaim that Albert Hoare Sr. tried to remove them off the land and deprive them of their rights to it. In a lawyer later dated April 2nd of 2014, Andrea McSweeney McCoy, the attorney for the Koi side of the family, wrote to Albert Hoare Sr. And in that correspondence, she says that she is representing Isabel Hoare, Emma Jean Koi, Alison Koi, Wilhelm Koi, and Secundino Koi, who are, quote, the lawful leaseholders of the property, end quote. In that letter, the attorney says she was instructed that around July 2013, Albert Hoare asked for permission to live on the property on the basis that he had nowhere else to go. The Koi side of the family says that they consented to Albert Hoare Sr. living there, and they even allowed him to construct a small home on the property. That lawyer letter goes on to say, quote, recently, you acting either alone or through your agents have challenged the title or entitlement of our clients to the property, denied our clients access to portions of the property, including their cattle ranch, arranged for police to detain them for 6 hours, one of our clients, on the fabricated allegations that you own or are entitled to the property, and that our clients have trespassed thereon and have threatened them with violence and bodily harm. Our clients have expressed great regret and disappointment at the result of their kindness, end quote. We'll take a break now. When we come back, the PUP still has not selected its Belize City slate, but the UDP team is already on the ground campaigning. We'll see if the new faces can win over a wary electorate. Don't go away.
At Benquip, we offer a complete line of Honda products featuring the most trusted and reliable line of motorcycles in Belize. For outdoor and marine recreation, we have Polaris ATVs and UTVs, Volvo Pentamarine Solutions, Honda Outboards, and Best Sport Kayaks. When it's time to service your vehicle or equipment, you can find the brands you trust at Benquip. We carry a large inventory of Castrol oils, NGK spark plugs, and a full range of cleaning products from Magic. Get power when you need it with trade winds and Honda generators. For those businesses looking for increased productivity and a safe working environment, our proven and respective line of TCM forklifts will not let you down. We also have trimmers and lawnmowers from Honda and Husqvarna, so you can keep your yard and surroundings properly maintained. So visit Benquip today at 3 miles on the Philip Golson Highway to get the equipment, parts, and service you need.
For hydration, when the choice is yours, choose the brand you have always trusted. Crystal Water. Taste you can trust.
Dear Belize, the coronavirus has swept across the world, including our beloved country. It has impacted our health and devastated our economy. But all is not lost. Collectively, we all can make a difference. We can take precautions and protect ourselves and each other. Limit your social interactions and stay safe with the people you love. We are living in a new normal, but we can still enjoy all the wonderful things that Belize has to offer. Everything is still there. That little spot on the beach you love, your favorite restaurant, the friendly faces. Let's commit to wearing our masks, sanitizing, physical distancing, and washing hands regularly. So stay safe today so we can enjoy tomorrow together. Sincerely, an optimistic Belizean.
Everyone is at risk of catching COVID-19, so it's important to quickly recognize signs and symptoms of the infection. The most common symptoms are fever, dry cough, and tiredness or fatigue. Some people may also have sore throat, aches and pains, stuffy nose, or diarrhea. But a few people have also reported pink eye or conjunctivitis, headache, loss of taste or smell, a rash on skin, or change in the color of fingers or toes. Emergency warning signs that require immediate medical attention are extreme difficulty breathing, severe constant pain or pressure in the chest, becoming confused, unable to talk or move, bluish lips, face, fingers, or toes. For more information, call 0800 MOHCARE. Help keep Belize safe.
Electricity. We use it to power our appliances, charge our devices, and light our home. Let's all practice energy conservation at home and in the workplace. That's unplug chargers when not in use, lights off when not in the room, turn off fans and TVs. You can also look for Energy Star products and change lights to LEDs, which reduce energy cost. Let's all save energy.
You have a neighbor throwing a party? Do you know of anyone holding a social event? Have you seen people not following protocols set in place to reduce the spread of COVID-19? If so, report them immediately. Use SMART or BTL and call 0800-PARTIES. That's 0800-727-8432. Our COVID-19 hotlines are available 24/7. These violators are putting your health and everyone you love at risk. Call our COVID-19 hotlines and report all violators. This message was brought to you by the Belize Police Department.
We do these things without thinking, to keep our possessions safe. And yet, we think twice about doing this. Even though calling Crime Stoppers is an anonymous way to make our homes, schools, and communities safer, which helps to protect the people we care about. Call Crime Stoppers to anonymously report criminal activity in your area. By working together, we can make our Belize a safer place. This message is brought to you by Crime Stoppers Belize and this station.
Border jumping is illegal and puts our entire nation at risk. Our neighbors, Guatemala and Mexico, are experiencing rapidly increasing numbers of COVID-19 cases, and there are more deaths every day. Persons entering Belize illegally from these hotspot countries are not being tested for COVID-19. That's why it is important to report anyone entering Belize illegally by calling our hotlines. Smart users call 0800-JUMPERS or 0800-BORDERS. For Digi, call 0800-SAVE-BZE. Condoning or engaging in border jumping is putting yourself, your family, and the entire country at risk. Remember, anyone caught will be fined up to $5,000 and or imprisoned for 2 years. Stop border jumping now. This message is brought to you by the Belize Police Department and the Belize Bank.
The POP has occupied City Hall from 2018, swept into office after 12 years of a UDP rule in the city. And this coming weekend, the POP's delegates will select from close to 30 hopefuls to select its new slate. Being that the POP is in central government in Belmopan, conventional wisdom may say that the POP is favored in the upcoming municipal election. But that's not stopping the UDP from getting a head start on the campaign trail. They selected their candidates 8 days ago and have been campaigning across the city. Over the weekend, they were in the Port Layula area meeting the residents. Today, they made their way to the Queen Square area where Courtney Menzies met up with them. Here is that story.
Municipal elections are quickly approaching, and the UDP 11 has taken to the streets to start their campaigning, with former journalist Orson Picard leading them. Picard is a newcomer in the political arena, and he joined the Democratic fight at an interesting time. The UDP central government lost 26-5 just last year, and the current city council has had to maneuver a pandemic. But Picard says that's no excuse, and they should have been working during this time to fulfill their mandate.
The city council is responsible for $25 to $30 million a year. People not stop pay tax. Business people want to tell you right now that the current city council is running down for trade license, for liquor license, driver's license have to get renewed, all of these things. The city council is still making money and collecting tax. So don't make nobody fool you about, yeah, what, we're cash strapped. The city council is self-sustaining.
And while Picard can certainly fault fine, will it be enough to swing voters? The people spoke on November 11, saying they were tired of a UDP government. But what does this mean for a UDP city council? Picard thinks it would complement a PUP government nicely. Now, in 2018, with a UDP central government, the UDP city council candidates lost. Then in 2020 general elections, the central government lost in a landslide. The fact of the matter is that the UDP is trending downwards and that they're not the most popular party right now. Do you think that all of these efforts might be in vain?
That's your perception, and that might be the narrative you want to spit when writing this story. But the truth of the matter is this, that with a central government being a People's United Party central government, and you end up to have one UDP local government, they can be check and balances of each other, which means that central government want to end up to watch the UDP local government, and the UDP local government want to watch the central government with a PUP for hold them accountable as much as they are holding us accountable, because at the end of the day, what that then does, that bodes well for democracy, which means that ultimately that the people of Belize City end up to win. And so taking into consideration what happened in November of last year, the people clearly stated, and so they gave that mandate to the People's United Party. UDP, we have to come back to the table and end up the restructure.
Picard was joined by members of his slate, who told us that one of their major goals is working alongside small businesses.
We will see how we could help families. By helping a family with a business is to help a family grow. You understand? And in this time of pandemic, man, you see what's happening with families. Families broken down, families suffering, family create loss. So by helping that family grow, you help us. You help them where they could help themselves.
And according to another member, the message from the people is clear. We want a council that will work for us.
Over the weekend, we did the Port Loyola areas, 2 sections in the Port Loyola areas. We did the upper part of Port, which consists of Cesar Ridge Road, and yesterday we concentrated in the Jane Usher Boulevard area. And for the most part, you got a genuine feedback that people want the resources of the municipal government to fluctuate and relate in their neighborhoods. The overgrown grass, drains not clean, streets fixed. That's basically what you get everywhere you go.
And while the UDP has mobilized its campaign earlier than the PUP and has many new faces, will all that be enough to erase the aftertaste of UDP government's past? We'll know in less than 6 weeks. Courtney Menzies, 7 News.
In the 2018 municipal elections, turnout was low countrywide, where only 57.23% of voters turned out. But it was lowest in the city, where only 50% of the registered voters came out. This year, the voters also have to consider COVID concerns before they come out to vote. Turning now to a festering land dispute, the Valley of Peace farms had their cane fields set fire in the cane field. It happened over the weekend following tensions between the company and the farmers in the area. While arson is suspected, the police could not confirm that today.
Sometime shortly after 4 p.m., he was alerted by one of the farm workers that one of the cane fields located on the Valley of Peace Road was on fire. As a result, the area was visited where some 9.5 acres of cane was observed to be burnt. He actually made a future reference report, but the matter is still under investigation, and if it is that anyone is found to have been responsible or that the cane fields were intentionally lit on fire, then thereafter he would then proceed with requesting court action into the matter.
This morning we spoke via teleconference with Gilbert Canton Jr., the manager of Valley of Peace Farms Limited, the company which was targeted for this arson. He told us that while his company does not want to point fingers at anyone for it, there was no way for this fire to have started spontaneously. Someone had to light it. He said that there is a plan to save the cane that was burnt in those 10 acres of their fields.
On Saturday, we got the report from one of our employees that our field B50 was on fire. It's a 20-acre field. So the team mobilized and went out there and found out that it was on fire, and we basically put a bulldozer in to cut a fire line and contain the fire. So that's what we found. Of course, then we reported it to all the authorities, to the police, and the police came out and we did an inspection, and we found a spot where we think the fire was lit in some grass, and it walked into the field from there. So that's what we found on Saturday.
Sir, is there any possibility that this particular fire could have been a natural source, or it had to have been intentionally set?
No, these fields don't set themselves on fire. Absolutely not. This fire was definitely set. The value of that sugarcane, we estimated just over $12,000. We're hoping that the Santander mill can fire up today. It's not fired up yet. If it fires up today, then we'll be able to harvest that cane and process that cane, and there will be minimal loss to the company. Some damage when we're put the bulldozer in, but very minimal. So that's the hope. if they don't get fired up by tomorrow, then we will lose that $12,000 because by the time that cane has rotted after burning.
Any ideas as to who could have done this and why?
I can't really speculate on who. That's a difficult question, and the police are doing their investigation. So I would refrain from speculating there. The why, is also very, very difficult. We've got, as you know, there's a land issue here between us and some folks that are farming on ground that we have title to. We also last week had a spray issue where we were accused of one of our aerial sprays damaging some crops. So it could have been in retaliation for that. I don't know. It's very difficult to speculate exactly what would have caused it or who would have caused it. But those are the two issues that we have that are ongoing right now. We have a history of trying to engage the community and providing support to the community and working with the community. But as this dispute has heated up over the past few years, we've sort of had to take a stance and communicate through the authorities because that's been a more fruitful path of communicating. So us reaching out, no, other than talking to the village chairman as an authority again, we haven't reached out to the farmers. No. So we're doing this all through the authorities. We think that's best given the circumstance. Coming into the dry season, this is when it all starts to happen. And this is when it can build, and we're going to be clearing. They want to clear. And so this is the time of year when it all starts to come together and little tensions fly and things like that happen. But I would say the status quo is the same. And I would sum it up to you like this. We have title to land. We have some farmers that are on that title land that claim they have some rights to that land. And so we have one of two solutions. Our company has said from the very beginning that we are willing to do a deal with the government to provide, area for these people to farm on our property, or some sort of agreement with the government and with them to make that situation work, or we go to court to settle it and let the court tell us who owns what. And so those are the two options. And I would say it's the status quo, but I think that this time of year is when you see the tensions rise, because this is the time of year when everybody gets productive.
There was another fire which was started yesterday on the company's fields, but it was all grass. The company has increased its security staff with the intent of guarding its assets. Earlier in the news, we showed you our interview with the Minister of Health and Wellness. That opportunity to speak with him materialized today when his ministry handed over $1 million worth of equipment to the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital. The ministry is attempting to better equip the National Referral Hospital's much-trafficked COVID isolation unit. The managing authority had made a request for all this equipment 10 months ago, and today the ministry was finally able to deliver. We got a chance to speak with the donors and the recipients about it.
Behind us we have some ventilators, we have some patient monitors, and we have some high-flow machines. And these are equipment that we acquired through the Ministry of Health. And it is to help us with the fight against COVID. As you all know, the ventilators are critical for us, and so are the high-flow machines. As a matter of fact, the use of the high-flow machines in many instances help to obviate the need to use the ventilators. So the equipment you see here are critical in the fight against COVID.
What is the value?
Yeah, I believe overall you're looking at about $1 million, Belize.
Well, we are quite pleased with the donation. Actually, it was a part of a list that was submitted previously to the Ministry of Health. And so we are now in the position where this current minister had went ahead and concluded on the requisition that was submitted prior. So these were outstanding for us for some time, and so we are very pleased that we are now able to get the quantities of ventilators and patient monitors that we need to efficiently and effectively manage our patients in the COVID unit.
You said that this was a part of a list.
Equipment. It's a part of the plan. In terms of the COVID isolation management, it was planned for a 10-bed response. Of course, we had to implement a surge plan, And with the surge plan, there were additional beds that were allocated for COVID response. So we are at a total of 23 COVID beds and 13 beds for suspect cases, or what we call PUIs, right? So for the COVID beds, we needed to have at least a ventilator secured for each of those beds in the event of surge, and of course patient monitors for each of those beds that will assist staff members with the management of these patients, right? It does the monitoring of all the vital signs for the patients: blood pressure, pulse, cardiac rate, respiratory rate, oxygen saturation. So the staff members, it provides them with additional capabilities to manage patients more effectively.
Our efforts over these last couple of months from December have been to try and change the trend, the mortality rate that we were seeing in the COVID era, which was unreasonably high. I think that we've managed to make the changes necessary, both in terms of improving the physical infrastructure, the utilities in the area, and also by making the changes so that the medical personnel would be better organized and better able to do their job.
The KHMH CEO tells us that they are waiting on additional beds to improve the redundancy features of their isolation units' surge capacity. The Henry Reeves Brigade is back in Cuba after spending 10 months away from their families. President Miguel Diaz-Canel gave them a warm welcome, and the Cubans hailed them as selfless heroes. As glad as the professionals were to render aid where needed, they were also glad to be back home. And YouTube video by Canel Carib details their arrival into Cuba, including interviews from some of the healthcare workers. Here is a snippet.
It's difficult. I have a son, I have a mother, and it was something so painful because we weren't sure if we were going to come back again. But we were prepared, and we went with a strong mind that we were going to come back because our family was waiting for us in Cuba.
Belize got complicated a lot, and we had approximately 600 patients, and we couldn't meet the resources that was required. But we still gave the attention to the patients, and not a lot of patients passed away in Belize due to the pandemic. They asked for our help from our country, and we complied with that request.
The brigade left on January 20th. And while that brigade of Cuban medical officers is returning home, another landed in the country over the weekend. Today, the Minister of Health and Wellness discussed their arrival with the press.
So we had the Henry Reeves Brigade leave after being here almost 12 months. They were supposed to be here only for 6. They have left. Some of the doctors from the regular brigade also left. And we had a contingent come in Saturday evening. I believe it's about 28 medical officers to replace some of those who left.
Last year's floods, especially those caused by the outer bands of hurricanes Eta and Iota, has badly damaged the country's roadways. And so the Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Housing is asking for the general public to have patience while they fix the damage based on priority. This is a picture of one sugar road which blocked farmers from getting their cane to the mill. And there are a lot more like that, with the minister struggling to keep up. In a Facebook post, ministry officials say that they understand the frustration of Belizeans, since more than likely you have to travel on a few badly damaged streets and roads. They are asking for the public to continue sending concerns about which roads they should address. They say that will not happen overnight, but they will eventually repair them. In other words, hope for the best, but don't hold your breath. Earlier in the news, we told you about the BSAG 8 that will be re-arrested for the crimes of murder and attempted murder. We also told you that so far only one police officer was arrested. We can tell you now that earlier today a BDF soldier was also taken into custody. He is 24-year-old Vladimir Escaraga of San Jose Village. He too was arrested for the crime of manslaughter. And That's all we have for you for tonight. Thanks for watching. With your news, I'm Indra Craig. Remember that you can see a streaming video of this newscast at 7newsbelize.com, brought to you by Digi for the best postpaid plans in the country. Remember to wash your hands, to wear a mask at all times in public, and to keep your social distance. The curfew starts at 8 tonight, so please stay inside. Join me back here tomorrow at 6, and until then, have a great night.